Welcome to Dark Clues, where every mystery hides a deeper truth. Today, we uncover the haunting case of the Black Dahlia. Let's get into it. On the morning of January 15, 1947, Los Angeles awoke to a nightmare. A young woman's body had been discovered in a vacant lot near Leimert Park, brutally mutilated and posed in a manner so gruesome that even hardened police officers were shaken. The woman was later identified as 22-year-old Elizabeth Short. To the world, she would become known as the Black Dahlia, a nickname that would forever be associated with one of the most chilling and unsolved murders in American history. Elizabeth Short was born on July 29, 1924, in Hyde Park, Massachusetts. She was the third of 5 daughters, growing up during the Great Depression. When Elizabeth was just 6 years old, her father, Cleo Short, abandoned the family. He faked his own death, leaving behind his wife and children to fend for themselves. The trauma of abandonment haunted Elizabeth throughout her life. In her late teens, Elizabeth began chasing dreams of Hollywood stardom. She was captivated by the glamour and allure of the film industry, a world that promised escape from her past. Friends described her as a romantic, often lost in fantasy, and she frequently dressed in black, which contributed to the nickname Black Dahlia. She bounced between cities, Massachusetts, Florida, and eventually Los Angeles, often relying on the kindness of strangers, boyfriends, and casual acquaintances to get by. Elizabeth's time in Los Angeles was marked by instability. She struggled to find steady work and often lived in transient housing, with friends or in cheap hotels. She was known for her beauty and charm, but also for a mysterious quality that made her seem elusive. While many men were drawn to her, Elizabeth seemed to be searching for something more: love, purpose, or maybe just security. On January 9, 1947, Elizabeth was last seen alive at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She had been staying with a man named Robert "Red" Manley, a traveling salesman she had met just days earlier. According to Manley, he dropped her off at the Biltmore's lobby and never saw her again. The hotel staff confirmed she had been there, making phone calls from the lobby, but after that, she vanished. 6 days later, a woman walking with her daughter through a vacant lot on Norton Avenue stumbled upon something horrific. What she initially thought was a mannequin turned out to be the severed and bisected body of Elizabeth Short. Her corpse had been meticulously cleaned and posed. She had been drained of blood, her mouth slashed into a Glasgow smile, and deep lacerations marked her body. The brutality of the crime shocked even seasoned detectives. The crime scene offered few clues. The ground around Elizabeth's body was undisturbed, leading investigators to believe she had been killed elsewhere and transported to the lot. The bisection of her body was surgically precise, indicating someone with medical knowledge or experience in anatomy. There were rope marks on her wrists, ankles, and neck, suggesting prolonged torture before death. But despite these horrifying details, there were no witnesses, no blood at the scene, and no immediate suspects. The case quickly became a media sensation. Reporters gave Elizabeth the moniker, the Black Dahlia, playing off a popular noir film at the time, The Blue Dahlia. Sensational headlines painted her as a seductive femme fatale, casting aspersions on her character and lifestyle. Some newspapers even fabricated stories to sell more papers, feeding the public's morbid fascination with the murder. Behind the headlines was a grieving family. Elizabeth's mother, Phoebe Short, learned of her daughter's death in the most brutal way, through a reporter who had posed as someone calling with good news, only to break the story and gather personal details for a feature. The press portrayed Elizabeth as a reckless drifter, ignoring the complex and often difficult life she had led. Despite dozens of leads and hundreds of interviews, the LAPD struggled to make progress in the investigation. More than 60 people confessed to the crime, but none could be conclusively tied to it. Detectives combed through Elizabeth's past, her boyfriends, acquaintances, and employers, but the deeper they dug, the more tangled the story became. A veil of mystery hung over her final days. Several theories emerged over the years. Some believed Elizabeth was killed by someone she knew, possibly a jealous lover or an angry acquaintance. Others pointed to the medical precision of the cuts and theorized a surgeon or mortician was responsible. A few went further, suggesting a cover-up by powerful individuals or a connection to other unsolved murders in the area. Detective Harry Hansen, one of the original investigators, remained haunted by the case for the rest of his life. He and his team followed up on every credible lead, but the killer always seemed one step ahead. Frustration mounted as weeks turned into months and the trail grew cold. In the years that followed, a number of suspects were investigated, but none were ever charged. Among the most infamous was Dr. George Hodel, a wealthy physician with a dark reputation. Hodel was known for his surrealist art, connections to Hollywood's elite, and disturbing behavior. He had once been accused of sexually abusing his own daughter, and he was under surveillance by the LAPD during the late 1940s. Decades later, Hodel's own son, Steve Hodel, a former LAPD homicide detective, began investigating his father after finding a photo he believed was of Elizabeth Short. Steve's research led him to believe that his father had not only killed Elizabeth but may have also been involved in other murders. He published his findings in a book that reignited public interest in the case, though some critics questioned the strength of his evidence. The theory surrounding Dr. Hodel remains one of the most compelling. Surveillance tapes recorded by LAPD placed in his home captured Hodel saying, "Supposin' I did kill the Black Dahlia. They couldn't prove it now. They can't talk to my secretary because she's dead." Though circumstantial, these tapes added a chilling layer to the already complex mystery. Another theory suggests that the murder was committed by someone in the film industry, someone with access to tools and knowledge of makeup, prosthetics, and effects. The theatrical way Elizabeth's body was displayed supported the notion of a killer who sought not just to kill, but to perform. Her murder bore the hallmarks of a macabre stage. The media's role in shaping public perception of Elizabeth cannot be understated. The press, eager to sell papers, portrayed her as promiscuous and reckless. But those who knew her described her as kind, reserved, and hopeful. She dreamed of being in the movies, of finding love, of escaping a life filled with instability. Instead, she became a symbol, a ghostly icon of Hollywood's darkest underbelly. Over time, the Black Dahlia case transcended the true crime genre and became a part of American folklore. Films, novels, documentaries, and even video games have drawn from Elizabeth's story. Her murder has inspired endless speculation and artistic interpretations, but the heart of the matter remains unchanged. A young woman, brutally murdered, and justice denied. The LAPD has kept the case open, though decades have passed. DNA testing has been used on some of the evidence, but with so many years gone by, degradation and contamination remain serious hurdles. New tips occasionally surface, but none have led to a break in the case. To this day, Elizabeth Short's murder remains one of the most notorious unsolved crimes in the United States. It represents a perfect storm of tragedy: a vulnerable young woman, a ruthless killer, and a city eager to sensationalize rather than understand. In the shadows of Hollywood's golden age, her story is a reminder that behind the glitz and glamour, darkness can thrive unchecked. Elizabeth was laid to rest at Mountain View Cemetery in Oakland, California. Her gravestone reads simply, Elizabeth Short, July 29, 1924 to January 15, 1947. The woman the world came to know as the Black Dahlia is buried far from the city that consumed her story. Yet her legacy endures, not because of who killed her, but because of how much of her life was lost in the telling. She was not just a mystery or a headline. She was a daughter, a sister, and a dreamer. And while the truth behind her death may never be fully known, the demand for answers continues. Each retelling keeps her memory alive, and reminds us of the price some pay in the pursuit of fame, love, or simply a place to belong. If this story gripped you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more true crime deep dives. And remember, behind every headline, there's a human story worth remembering.